Three.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an episode of Coffee Break with Card, La Hora del Cafecito's new sister show. Coffee Break with Card is a program dedicated to all those in our community who are living with autism, to their family members, and to all those who support them. My name is Lourdes Quinones, and I would like to welcome you to our show, to our coffee break table. So come on in, join us, and sign in, and let us know if you're drinking your coffee with us. We'd love to say good morning to you. In today's program, we have the pleasure to be interviewing our Executive Director of CARD USF, Dr. Beth Boone, who is ready to talk to us about cosplay and how it relates to autism. So join us. We have a lot to talk about. So let's start by introducing to you our coffee break hostesses for today. As I mentioned before, my name is Lourdes Quinones, and I'm a card consultant assigned to the primary age group through elementary ages. Professionally, I'm a pediatric physical therapist as well as a special education teacher. I am joined by Jasmine Castellano. Buenos dias, Jasmine.
Good morning, buenos dias. Good morning,
Jas-
everyone.
Jasmine is an excellent professional in the field of mental health. She's a card consultant assigned to the middle and high school age groups and is the mother of three, one of whom is diagnosed with autism. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Olivia McDonald, buenos dias, is an
Good
excellent
morning.
professional in the field of public health. She is a card consultant assigned to the primary age group, just like me. And she's the mother of a beautiful baby infant boy. Yeah. And she has a younger brother diagnosed with autism. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you, Lourdes. Good morning, everyone.
Buenos dias, Maggie Aldana.
Morning.
She's an excellent special education teacher. She's the chair of CARD's Constituency Board and is the mother of three children, two of whom are diagnosed with autism. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Ima Camposano is completing her master's in social work, and she has chosen to do her internship here at CARD as she's committed to serving all those in our community who are living with autism. So Ima is the mother of two, and she also has a physical disability, so she brings an important perspective to the program. Welcome, Ima.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
And of course, our Dr. Boone, but we'll be talking about her in a second. But before we get started, we will like to remind you to please adhere to the following rules to keep an open mind and a positive attitude, and of course, use respectful language to make sure that we provide a safe environment for all of us, right? So, before we get started, Jasmine, would you greet the audience? Do we have people we want to say hello to?
Yes, we have someone very important for Dr. Boone, and he's Mr. Joe, who is giving us a heart. So,
Buenos dias.
hi.
Buenos dias, Joe. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all of you. So, as I mentioned earlier in today's show, we were going to be interviewing our executive director, Dr. Beth Boone, who is ready to talk to us about cosplay and how it relates to autism. So, join us. We have a lot to talk about. Um, Dr. Boone, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist for 20 years and have spent most of my career providing behavior support and education related to neurodevelopmental disabilities. As a clinician, as a teacher, and as an administrator. And I have been at CARD USF for almost 2 years. And I have a family. I have a 16-year-old daughter, Zoe, and my husband Joe, who is apparently watching right now. I can't see the screen, but cosplay is a big love and hobby of ours, and so it's exciting to be able to put together the two things that I really feel passionate about. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. So let's get started.
Okay.
And Dr. Boone, what can you tell us about cosplay? What is cosplay?
Okay. One moment. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. I put some slides together. Oh, do you see my slides?
Coming up. Yep, right there. It's beautiful.
I don't see my slides, so Let me get a little note here. Get my notes here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about cosplay today. Okay. So, Yasmin, your question is, what can I tell you about cosplay? So, cosplay is a shortened version of the words costume play, and it's an activity and performance art in which participants called cosplayers wear costumes and fashion accessories to represent a specific character. So, some of the history. Cosplay grew out of the practice of fan costuming at science fiction conventions dating all the way back to the first World Science Fiction Convention in New York City in 1939. The term cosplay was coined by Nobuyuki Takahashi after he attended the 1984 World Science Fiction Convention in Los Angeles and saw costume fans. And he later wrote an article and coined the term cosplay because he felt like the word masquerade, which is the word that had been used previous to that, it translates into Japanese as an aristocratic costume, and that didn't feel like what he was seeing at the conventions. So in the Western world, our cosplay origins are strongly science fiction and other fantasy fandoms, and there are also opportunities to cosplay in places like Renaissance fairs, live action role playing games, and historical reenactments. So, cosplay events are common features in conventions, and there are many dedicated conventions and even competitions, as well as social networks, websites, and other forms of media. A quote that I found was, "It is of my own opinion that cosplay is not merely costuming, but a very unique form of performance art." So it's more than just dressing in a Halloween costume. So.
Dr. Boone, first of all, you look fabulous. I don't know if they've taken the time to mention that.
Thank you.
So what are what kinds of cosplay are there?
Go down and we can talk about that. Now, this is just one way to break them up. Essentially, cosplay can include characters from books, movies, video games, TV series, comic books, music bands, anime, steampunk, superheroes, monsters, robots, animals, historical or pop figures, or just garbing from a time period or movement. So cosplay ranges from simple themed clothing to highly specific and detailed, taking on the mannerisms and the language of the particular subculture. Some of the ways that you can cosplay include the nod or the expression, which is really it's not literal to the original character. So, for example, you would call what I'm doing here a nod to the Mad Hatter, right? Because I don't look like the character from the books, and I don't look exactly like Johnny Depp in the movies or whatnot. But I have sort of some of the essential features: the hat, the crazy makeup, and maybe the attitude, right, of a Mad Hatter. So this is the nod, right? You also have the canon. So some people are very specific and very passionate about portraying a character exactly or almost exactly as it is in whatever fandom it comes from. So if you look at one of these pictures here, so I'm dressed up there as Black Widow and dressed fairly, my hair's the same, the outfit's the same. So a pretty literal interpretation of that particular character. Now, crossplay is cosplaying a character with a gender that's opposite of yours, but you don't change the costuming or makeup in any way. So if I were going to be Gandalf the Grey from Lord of the Rings, I would have the beard and the long hair and the long robes, just like the male character of Gandalf. Now, gender bending is basically taking on a character that is of the opposite gender to you and making it your own. So if you look at this little orange and blue spot on the screen here, that's my kid Zoe cosplaying Super Saiyan, one of the Goku iterations, right? But Goku is essentially male, and we made it her own, essentially. So let's see, what else do we have? We have humanized. So humanized is where you play something that's not human, but of course you play it as human. So up in the top picture, my husband and I are smashed pumpkins, which of course aren't alive, but we brought them to life, and that was super fun. And then you have the mashup or the crossover, which is where you cross genres or you mix together characters. Those are always really fun to see. So we've got our steampunk vampires up here at the top. You might go to a convention and see a Bride of Frankenstein stormtrooper. So you're crossing genres or you're crossing different characters. And then you have alternate universe, which is basically where you take a character and you drop them into a different universe. So maybe the Disney princesses all go to Hogwarts. And so you don't necessarily change the characters, but you put them in an alternate universe. So that's those are some of the ways that you can cosplay.
So who would have known there's all this stuff? And look at you being so versed in this. Oh my God, I love it.
Well, I should say that I'm not an expert on cosplay. I'm a very enthusiastic fan of the activity. So I actually did do some studying for this.
We can tell by your pictures.
This is so fascinating, Dr. V. Can you give us a little bit more insight in how we can do cosplay?
I can, but first I wondered if I could talk a little bit about why people cosplay. Okay. I slipped that in after the script was made. So to casual onlookers, cosplay is just like dressing up for Halloween. But for the people that do cosplay, there's a number of different things that they really get out of it. So one of the things, and it's further down on my list, but it's fun. It's fun to dress up, and it's fun to be someone else for a period of time. It's an opportunity to express yourself artistically, to be imaginative, to be maybe a little bit out of your normal shell, or convey a part of you that doesn't get seen very often. It can be competition at conventions. There are actually people that compete with their costumes, and then also people that make money from going places to places in their costumes, and they get money for taking pictures with people, and things like that. A lot of times it's because you really love a particular character or a particular genre. My family and I cosplay steampunk a lot because we really, kind of like that whole, Victorian with like futuristic aspects put together. Or there might be a character that you really love on a TV show or a movie or a comic book. It's a way to get attention from people, and it's always very interesting at conventions. People run up that have the same, that are costuming the same character, or that really enjoy that character. They want to take pictures with you. It's interesting to go to dinner or to go to lunch in the community before you go to one of these events and be dressed up. And if you're a kind of a naturally shy person like me, it's cool to put on that persona and really feel that power and self-confidence that comes from, say, going out in public and being Black Widow or another superhero. I'm pushing buttons on my screen. There is a sense of community, right? If you see other people that are interested in the same fandom that you are, it's an opportunity to meet people and talk with people. And it can be just stress relief. I mean, it was kind of fun. We've had quarantine and have had many things be canceled over the years, and it was pretty fun this morning for me to get up and find my hat, which was I made this hat, by the way, with it, and put my makeup on and the wig and all of that stuff.
So this is something that I learned as first of all, we have seen some of your customs because Dr. B really gets into this, and she looks for an opportunity. In October is her favorite month. So we've all learned about it. Our meetings, she tries to incorporate as much dressing up as possible by giving a theme to to the meetings. But something I also learned as I researched a little bit about this for this program, it's a big presence in the YouTube community with a lot of, and even there's apps about it. So with a lot of interaction and building a community within the internet,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, and absolutely. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to talking about autism.
Perfect.
I skipped over your question, Maggie. Would you like to ask it again?
I was just so interested in, learning more, and I wanted to know how do I cosplay? Like if I was um just introduced, this is new to me. Um where
Mhm.
would we start?
Well, really, you just start with. Sometimes you start with an idea, and sometimes it's easier to start with an event. And this little picture up here, the first time I ever cosplayed the Mad Hatter, I had a social worker, coworker, and friend of mine who had an Alice themed birthday party when she turned 30, and that was the first time I had cosplayed, and it was exciting to say, okay, I want to be one of the characters from Alice in Wonderland. How do I kind of make that my own? So, you can choose an event. Maybe there's a convention coming up soon, and I'll talk about some of those events around the Tampa Bay area and surround. Maybe there's an event coming up, or maybe you just love a character and you think, gosh, I'd really like to dress up as that person. I'd like to feel like that person, or portray, or sort of put that out, that person's vibe out there in the universe. So then you have to figure out, how am I going to make my how am I going to costume, right? Because some characters you can search on the internet and they've got ready-made costumes that you can buy, and some are of better quality or worse quality, but really just getting started, there's nothing wrong with buying a costume, right? But then what happens if you really like somebody and the costume doesn't exist in the world? So if you look at this little picture at the bottom, Zoe wanted to be Madoka Amano one year, who is the mechanic from Beyblade, and they there wasn't such a costume in the world. So you get reference pictures, right? And you see what are the pieces that you could put together to make Madoka's costume. And as you can see, I think we got reasonably close, at least for the 7-year old that she was, 7 or 8 year old she was at the time. So then you have to decide how much you want to spend, right? Because you can get custom made costumes on places like Etsy, but they're very expensive. Or do you want to? How much do you want to work? Do you have sewing skills? Do you have crafting skills? What can you do to put things together? For me, it's always been fun to make my own hats, because, well, you don't have to make the hat; they already exist. But finding the elements that you like, I've got a little tea set here. I've got some kind of wild sprig over here. And so, do you want to buy a costume, or do you want to make a costume from scratch, or do you want to buy something like this blazer here and put pieces on, modify it in some way so that it works for you? So then you want to add props, accessories. You want to think about hair and makeup. And then you take some time, and until you're kind of used to doing this over time, put it all on. Put it on, walk around the house, walk around the neighborhood, call, like FaceTime your mom, and, practice getting into character and decide how much you want to kind of commit to. If I'm dressed as a pirate, do I want to speak only in pirate lingo, or um,
Heritage.
right? And then when you get ready for your event, you get into character. So I get my little teacup and I drink out of that my coffee instead of everyday coffee cup. And then you go and you just experience everything. When you're out at events like this, be really respectful of other people's cosplay. You may see somebody cosplaying a character of another race, or someone that's someone who is bigger than the original character, or they may have changed things in a certain way, or maybe they just wore a t-shirt that they of a fandom they really like in their jeans. And in all those ways, just make sure that you respect that community and that effort, and have fun. It's lots of fun.
Yes.
Such great tips. Thank you, Dr. B.
Yes, I love it. How about for anyone that's watching, what about cosplay in the autism community? Are there any benefits to doing cosplay for individuals with ASD?
Absolutely, and I will say before I start here, all of the things that I'm going to talk about right now don't come from my own experience. I do not have autism, but I've spent a lot of time in conventions and cosplay communities in my personal life with people who do have autism and other neurodiversity, and so this is really taking from their stories and sort of telling you some of the things that they experience with the understanding that one person, right? So what may be true for some of these things may not be true for all people. But for example, one of the really amazing things I think about conventions, especially, but things related to cosplaying certain fandoms is one of the symptoms, right? One of the diagnostic features of an autism diagnosis is what clinicians call rigid and stereotyped behavior, interest and behaviors, right? Circumscribed interest, the idea that someone gets stuck on a topic and has a hard time getting off of it. And a lot of times, the treatment, right? What we try to do is help people be flexible and sort of get off the topic because maybe nobody wants to talk about Thomas the Tank Engine for 2 hours, except for that person. One of the cool things about conventions, especially, is that those really dedicated interests then become expertise, which is valued and admired. So let's say every episode of Doctor Who inside and out. All the doctors and who played them and who, I'm not a Doctor Who fan. My husband is, but basically, maybe all of those things, or all of the Enterprise crews from all of the iterations of the movies and TV shows. You're going to find a group of people at a convention that have those same interests. So, what would be something that people might try to squash when you're sitting in the middle of a classroom or a workplace? You're going to find people that will be excited about what you know and have you share that. And so I actually love that as opportunity to be the expert, which I think we should always be looking for instead of identifying people as patients. But let's find places where people are admired and have an opportunity to be a leader. So another thing is, life is tough, and life right now with quarantine and Rona and all of that stuff is even tougher. But living in the structure of the neurotypical world as it's created can be even tougher, right? And so maybe dressing up as someone and sort of going into that um, environment or that world for a period of time gives you a fun escape from the tough realities of everyday life. I mean, I don't have autism, but it is for me. I mean, the chance to get to go do something and not be maybe in charge of making any decisions or doing any budgets is really awesome for me. So in this case, the focus then gets drawn away from whatever disability we might be talking about. And that's true for folks who are wheelchair users and things like that. The focus draws away from the disability and focuses on the character, which can be a great relief. In terms of relating to fictional struggles, a lot of times the particular fandoms, like, for example, anime series and things like that, they focus on struggles, right? They focus on an aspect of bullying in school or something like that. And sort of draw that out. You understand how the character feels and what's the resolution of that difficult struggle, and that might be a way that people can relate some of their own experiences to what they're watching. And so when they take on that character, they that helps overcome maybe some of those struggles even for the moment. Let's see, friendship and social lessons. I mean, social lessons and social opportunities. One of the cool things about shows that you watch and things is they can set up, as I said, sort of what are some of the rules for interacting, and what are some ways that we can overcome shyness or feeling maybe not very bold or very comfortable in your own skin. Um, you can actually find people with common interests in some of these settings, and it gives everybody a chance to practice interaction skills with maybe just a little bit less targeted, right? Because we're all in costume, we've got this persona that we can use. Let's see. In the same way that a lot of cosplay is based on fictional universes that have specific rules for how to behave. People have said that, for example, the Japanese anime shows that have the Japanese is a very kind of structured culture, and there's very specific ways about how to interact with people. You know, when you bow and when you make eye contact, and who talks first, and do you shake hands, and all of those things. So maybe being able to knowing what the structure is. Also, in some of the worlds, the anime characters, their faces are so expressive, so you don't have to guess what they're feeling, right? Because they have really angry faces, or they have really happy faces, and you don't have to worry about with this, what is that person feeling. So that can, I think, I have heard, can be a way of constructing that social interpersonal understanding.
It's also, you have the back and forth scripting where it's like, in this case, it's perfectly socially acceptable for you to be doing that.
Absolutely. If you know a whole episode of something, or you know all the lines of a movie, and somebody else knows those things too, you don't have to worry about when is my turn to talk and when is their turn to talk and what are those social cues. You can run those lines, or you can run that episode, and everything clicks, right? If you're doing it right. There's no doing it wrong if everybody knows the script, right?
It's such an empowering moment of inclusion, also, and as an outlet, like you said, it's an outlet for people to engage in their special interest area, and so it's acceptable, it's appropriate, and it enhances their sense of belongings. It's beautiful.
Sure. And I just want to talk for a few minutes about the con environment, because um, all at once, it can be an amazing, exciting opportunity to meet other people that have interests like yours, that are dressed like you, and but finding that community can be a little difficult. And conventions are notoriously loud and crowded, and people are everywhere, and people are stepping in front of you and bumping into you, and they're often in these big, in stadiums or amphitheaters, and everything echoes and everything's noisy. And so, I think some of the really forward thinking convention creators, have learned that something like having quiet rooms that people can go to, or places where people can, for example, sit in a beanbag or a rocking chair, and put on some headphones, or even to help prepare people for going to them, knowing that you're probably going to want your headphones or some earplugs, because honestly, I do. And so, just, I think, preparing a little bit for what can be a really overwhelming experience, knowing where the doors are so you can step outside if that's the only way to get some quiet. Going online and seeing if you can find a map so that you can figure out where the sessions are that you want to go, or so that you can go straight to the Doctor Who tent, or the 501st. I had to put some of convention pictures of my own, because if I ever see the Mandalorians or the stormtroopers running around, I have to have a picture with them. So a little bit of planning ahead and trying to figure out where things are placed that are of particular interest to you can keep you from kind of being submerged in this really noisy, crowded environment sort of longer than you have to.
That's a great idea. Excellent.
And Chris says he went to Tampa Bay Comic Con one time and it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy when I went too. And that overwhelm can certainly be really exciting until it's not, right? Until you've just had enough. And I think for anyone, too long in that, really, there's lots to look at, there's lots to hear, there's sights and sounds and smells, and there's a point at which at most people are going to need a break of some sort. So really, don't don't avoid going, or maybe consider finding a smaller venue where you can participate in that, and we can talk a little bit more
Yeah.
about options.
Yeah. So before we get into that, Jasmine, can we recognize our comments?
Yes, we have a couple of comments. We have from Darcy Anna. It says, great headpiece, Ima.
I love that.
Something happened to my
Hello, Darcy. I can't see anyone, but I
yeah.
thank you for joining.
So she also made the comment of Mad Hater. I don't know what is
Hatter,
Mad
Hatter,
that. Hatter. Mad Hatter. Ah, there you go. I have no idea what it is.
Hatter. Mad Hatter from Alice.
Oh, okay. And Mr. Joe says, Dr. Beth Boone, you are so creative.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
well, it's his job to gush. He's my husband, so thank you, honey.
But he knows it. He sees you doing it.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
yeah.
as we get ready to leave, I didn't want to leave without asking you if there's anything else that you wanted to share with us. Nice.
Absolutely. I just wanted to, not, I know not everybody watching is from the Tampa Bay area, but if you are, there are certainly lots of opportunities to do cosplaying. These are some of the more kind of formal opportunities, but I would say that if you're just starting out and you're not sure how you're going to do with crowds and things, look for smaller events. Like I said, the birthday party that my friend had, where we all got to dress up as Alice in Wonderland characters. So MetroCon is every year in Tampa, here in Tampa, down at the convention center, and that is scheduled for July of next year. Tampa Bay also has a comic convention, and the fact is, each of these cons has a little bit of a different spin. Like, some is focused on comic characters, there are anime ones. But you can pretty much go as whatever you would like to be at any of them. It's really a very inclusive society. So the Comic Con in Tampa Bay is usually in late July, so that'll be coming around next year. MegaCon is a great big one in Orlando. If you live near there or you're up for the ride, that's at the Orange County Convention Center. There are some smaller festivals, for example, LumiCon, which is coming up actually next weekend here in Tampa, is more anime focused. You've got the Bay Area Renaissance Festival, which has different themed weekends. So they have a pirate weekend, and they have a time travelers weekend, and they have Highlands Fling. So it's all the sort of Scottish, Irish, put your husband in a kilt day. And so that's February and March every year. And then actually, also there's the Gasparilla Pirate events all through January and February into March, where certainly you can dress as a pirate many, many times. For the more for the grown-up sector of our viewers, the Castle is a goth club in Tampa, and they have a vampire ball, they have a steampunk ball, and they have a number of different themed events. A very grown-up environment, so don't bring your kids. And actually, Darcy, who is viewing with us today, um, let me know about AspieCon, which I think was canceled in 2020, and I couldn't find evidence of it in 2021, but we'll be keeping our fingers crossed and our eyes open for 2022, which is basically a con that celebrates not only our love of cosplay and all of those fandoms, but really celebrates the relationship of folks with neurodiversity, and those type of activities. And I actually am super excited to see how that convention environment is crafted in order to be supportive of all of our brains essentially. So
Awesome. That is so wonderful. And it's, oh, nice message. Go ahead and read it.
expanding on what Dr. Boone said, that I love about the cosplay environment, when a person is at a cosplay event, every person not only has something in common, but something in common that they're really passionate about. So it's a very inclusive environment. I agree.
That is true. So wonderful. Oh my God. I'm so excited to have had the opportunity to bring you in to discuss this wonderful world that you are very engaged fan of. And so for those of you who are watching us who um, have an inclination of this sort, and this is really something that you are passionate about, I think that we just, Dr. Boone just did a great job of providing us information as to why, the how, the benefits of, and also where to do it. So thank you, Dr. B, for bringing us this information. We really, really appreciate it. Before we move on to the next one, can one of you take a screenshot right now? Let's all smile. It's a wonderful.
Yes. Give me one sec. Okay. Are we ready, ladies?
Yes. Sorry about that pause, but it's not very often that we get our executive director.
Like this. I appreciate you having me on. Like I said, I'm not a cosplay expert, but I'm definitely an enthusiastic participant. And I'm really excited to be on Coffee Break with you guys today.
Thank you for accepting to come in. We kind of popped this in one of the meetings, like, oh, by the way, we were thinking. And she's like, yes, of course, yes. Yeah. Anyway, so as we move on towards the closing of this episode, I just want to share with everyone that next week we are going to be talking about Halloween safety, how to keep our loved ones with autism and without safely during this holiday of Halloween. So be sure to join us. We'll be right here for providing very good information. That's going to be, as usual, on Friday. Today we're coming on Thursday because it sort of worked with everyone's schedule, especially Dr. B. She's so busy. So thank you, everyone, for having joined us here. But before we go, I want to ask you a little favor, and that's please, even if you've done it before, if you watched it, if you're finding lots of information that it's useful for you, would you please fill out the survey that we're going to be including in the comment section? Even if you've done it before, every time we go in the air, we need one of those really checked in. It's the way we can justify the time that it takes us to create this kind of episodes and to be in the air with you. So we really, 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 really appreciate it. Thank you for doing that. Anyway, so that brings us to the end of the program, but we didn't want to leave without asking you to please give us a like, share this video with those of you who know there's someone who could benefit from this, and also on your page. And be sure to meet us here every Friday around 10:45 to be sure to hear us spill the beans on topics that are important to the world of autism. And also, we want to wish you goodbye
And hot coffee.
See you then.